Often in life, there are surprises that come from all walks, all corners, all angles. And well, this morning I was rather surprised to hear we'd be joined by this guest, because I was like, I think he forgot about us, or he was just tired of us. He just needed a break. But he decided, you know what? I need to go back. Please welcome back to Talking Point, acting ASP Ashraf Ali. Good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. No, I didn't forget you all.
You were just strategically absent at times with difficult questions.
Yes.
Well, speaking of difficult times, we just were speaking about political language. It's combative, it's divisive, but now there's further implications when wider society uses that type of language, has that type of demeanor, is combative, it does have that strong aggressive energy towards each other. And you're here to speak to us about personal threats against one's life, and, well, threats. Sometimes, literally, when we get vexed with somebody, you might throw out an empty threat, but this day and age, you can't be too sure what is an empty threat and what's a real one.
Exactly. And over the years, the police service would have dealt with persons coming in the station and making threats, disputes, and annoyances, as we would have classified it. And it would have been classified as other matters, not taken consideration of because it was what we call idle threats, persons just having some disputes. But in recent times, you realize that the level of violence in the society, a lot of persons are actually carrying out these threats and taking actions on their own. And these type of things now are classified, and it's an offense under the books. We have a threat is a summary offense, right? So you can't be prosecuted for making threats as a summary offense now under the laws. So that's why when they go to these stations, the officers will take all of these reports now, and they're no longer going to give you a warning as they used to do, or you ask a person to be a warning. They could be investigated, statements taken, and you could be put before the court for issuing threats. You might have a dispute, and you might jump up and say, well, you see, I fed up with you and I will kill you.
I know this may sound rather peculiar, but given how the laws are so sometimes tangled up that we may not fully understand them, what does the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service define a threat as? Okay,
so it's not the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service per se, it's the law, all right? And it falls under the assault. It falls under the category of an assault, right? An assault is sometimes called as psychic assault in the act by which someone intentionally or recklessly cause or apprehend immediate and unlawful personal violence. So simply means that whatever action that you're taking, that person must believe that I could have personal violence. So I know you for a little while, and I know that you are willing and able to carry that threat, right? That's an assault one time. It is no longer saying.
Well, does it even need to be a situation where I know the person making the threat? What if, it's a passerby, driving through my community or something like that, like an encounter that's not a regular occurrence with somebody I don't know, and they make a threat? Could that also constitute as something that I could report to the police?
It can, but in order for it to be considered in the courts of law, somebody just passing by, I mean, is it considered to be that you consider yourself to be immediate violence? The only time you will consider yourself to be in immediate violence, or somebody can cause violence to you, is that you have to know that a person has intention of carrying it out, or is capable of carrying it out, and you must have some knowledge of that individual, some interaction, previous interaction with that individual or something to know that, hey, that person would have carried out threats. Right? So we also have the other aspect of it where we had some threats coming out on social media where we had bomb threats. Mm-hmm. Now, those are different type of threats that caters for in the other offenses, utilizing telephone messages and emails and that have to do at a different level of investigation, which is currently being investigated on those levels. Right? So holistically, when you look at it, we say that is our language, that is how we just talk, right? But when you say that is how we talk, while we are talking, you are actually making threats to an individual And once you feel uncomfortable, once you, the individual, feel that, listen, that Sean can carry it out, right, it is an offense.
So what you looking so surprised?
Why am I the murderer in this scenario?
No, you don't have to be a murderer. But the reality is that based on the level of violence that we are seeing and the use of guns, threats are no longer considered to be idle. It has to be taken seriously.
No longer just words and plain talk.
It must be taken seriously.
And as much as you say, some people might think it's we language. This is not just done to some extent on the street between people in an argument. You know, I'm sure everybody has heard family members with their parents basically say about their children when the children do something very bad. You know, I'm gonna kill him. You know, it's like, and it's something that goes across cultures, but at the same time, unique to us, we need to understand that as universal as it might seem and as harmless as it might seem in our past experiences, right? Now, is it that you're going to have to try to seriously educate the population? Because ignorance of the law is no excuse, if I remember correctly. So people could unknowingly get charged for this.
And that's why we have our legal clinic, right? That's one of the avenues that we are utilizing in the legal clinic. We have, through our community policing section, we also do counseling and mediation, because persons need to understand the type of language that they're using can, in fact, create an adverse reaction, right? So confrontations, persons when they're having confrontation and disputes, the more you become more aggressive, is the more the confrontation becomes the aggressor, and you always have more conflict.
I'm curious, and you know, forgive me if I'm being stupid here, because I myself am not entirely sure. One, is there in order for somebody to make a report to the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, do they have to be of a certain age? And two, could anybody of any age group report whether or not they feel as though they were threatened? In some instances, I mean, yes, okay, you might want to talk to your parents or whatnot, but is there any sort of restriction, not restrictions, but limitations?
No, there's no limitation on age to make a report. If the person is a minor, must be accompanied by someone, right? The person, that child or that minor will be interviewed in the presence of the individual as to what was the situation.
And a minor is considered 18 and younger, or 16?
Well, under the age of 18.
I assume that if the threat or the perceived threat is apparent, that might work under different laws and be dealt by the Child Protection Unit.
Child Protection Unit will consider that, because there are specific offenses when it comes to parents. And
this specific offense is more if a child is threatened by someone on the street or someone in a different capacity than domestic abuse.
And we look at it in schools. We consider it to be bullying. Bullying is threat. Bullying is an assault.
So bullying could reach this far.
Because the language of bullying, you're putting that individual or you're putting another child under fear. And just by saying, hey, give me your money today, right? You're threatening that individual to hand over your money and put them under fear and the bullying. So bullying in fact, is a threat and an assault also on that individual.
We might be getting a bit technical here.
It is.
Because it sounds very technical, because I'm wondering if the threat is the demand or if the threat is the repercussions if you do not follow my demand.
Once you are put under fear, once you believe that you are, and how in any law would they say that you apprehend someone's fear? So I am fearful. Why did I hand over the money, my lunch money to you? Because I'm fearful that you will do something to me. Well, and that is where we have to understand in the whole context of threats. We take threats only for threats for life. And when it reaches a domestic violence situation and then the issue of threats come up. But during the course of our conversation and our lives, in every different sphere, we use the type of language, and I use the word, I want to quote you, the colorful language that is so violent in the language is so violent that it's so common now that you're using it.
Yeah.
and not understanding that it is an offense under law.
I just thought of a very ironic scenario, but I'll save that. I do want to ask though, say somebody threatens me and I threaten them back. Could both of us be charged? Or
Yeah, you can, both of you will be charged.
A threat is a threat.
a threat? And quickly before the break, what are the potential penalties? We won't go through the entire spectrum, but say for threat against us, a direct threat against one's life, I believe that he's not just going to injure me, but kill me. What could be the full extent of the penalties be for something like this?
Unfortunately, those are some things that need to be considered, because this is very, very... Every person who unlawfully assaults or beats another person upon complaint on behalf the party aggrieved is liable to a fine of $400 or imprisonment for 3 months. Understanding the level of violence in the society, these penalties does not equate.
Very quickly, I know you said that how the Trans-Tobago Police Service takes these threats very seriously and ensure that it will be investigated. Once reported to the Trans-Tobago Police Station, it will. Any updates as per the investigations for the school bomb threats?
It's still being investigated by the cyber unit. Persons might want to say that we are taking too long, but when you're going through email situations, it has to be very meticulous, and the nature of... So just when you look at how the emails were sent, it was sent simultaneously to the different schools. At surface, right? Anybody could understand that there are some elements of a cyber attack that has to be investigated thoroughly, because at the end of the day, if something of that happens from a school environment, what is the extent from a national security perspective?
I've been asking myself that
So
question.
it's bigger. So I guess we will do a little more in depth into it.
Sure.